Hey there, I'm Julie Barrett, founder of Conservative Ladies of America and Conservative Ladies of Washington. And I wanted to chat with you today about the active task forces under Washington State's Attorney General Bob Ferguson. There has been a lot of talk lately because there are a lot of ridiculous and, quite frankly, possibly dangerous task forces going on in the Attorney General's office. So I wanted to share which ones are active that you should know about and just kind of keep your eye on. Now, a task force is not a law. They don't, most of the time, task forces are to gather information and come up with ideas and then make a recommendation to the state legislature about policy that they think should be enacted. And so, first up, we have a task force called Hear Me Wa. Hear Me Washington has a long history. It's several years long, and I'm going to link an article about the history of Hear Me Wa and how it came into being. It was started around like 2018, and there were several different pieces of legislation that led to this. And in this case, the task force is implementing a program that was made legal through legislation. And so what Hear Me Was is it's a confidential hotline for youth in Washington, for minors in Washington to call with any kind of crisis they may be having, whether it's depression, maybe they're confused about gender, maybe they're being bullied. They can also report crimes. Now, my friend TJ Martinell over at the Center Square did an article about this. He did a lot of research on this, and it's really uncertain if these minor children call and report a crime, where does that information go? Because it's confidential, so it can't go to law enforcement. So this is a huge concern, this particular piece of legislation that made this task force possible, I should say pieces of legislation, because in Washington state, minor children over 13, and in the case of gender affirming care or abortion, it's no minimum age. They can make decisions for themselves without their parents' consent, and in some cases without even notifying their parents. So this is a big concern. Essentially, children could call this hotline, the 988 number, and emergency services will show up at the house and take the child away. Now, how do I know this? Because it's happened to me. It's happened at my house. I no longer live in the state of Washington because they came to my house enough times that I said, we're done. We're not doing this. We are not co-parenting with this government. But parents should know that this is legal in Washington. They can come get your child. There's nothing that you can do to stop it. So Hear Me Was task force number one. They have their next meeting in January. And these are meetings that you can observe and you can sometimes make public comment as well. So I encourage you to get involved at that level and keep an eye on some of these meetings. You don't have to watch all of them, but maybe pick one that concerns you the most and keep an eye on it. Watch the meetings, read the meeting notes if you can't watch the meeting live, and make a public comment if you feel so moved and you have some concerns. That's the best place to share them. The second one is an AI task force. Now, there was a bill passed in the 2024 legislative session. It was a bipartisan bill, which means that the Republicans and the Democrats co-sponsored this bill. We at Conservative Ladies of Washington opposed the creation of an AI task force because we were concerned with the already leftist bias of artificial intelligence as is, and concerned that this task force would be driven by people primarily on the left, that it wouldn't be a truly diverse group of people representing conservatives, law enforcement, Christians, people with differing views from the leftist side. And in fact, the creation of the task force is chock full of leftists that really don't appear to know that much about artificial intelligence. So it's the meetings that I have watched since they kicked off in July. It sounds like they mostly just want to hear themselves talk, and it's a lot of word salad. But what's going to happen with this task force is they're going to come and report back to the legislature and give them their recommendations for future laws. So this is something that we want to keep an eye on. So I would encourage you, especially if you are a tech person and you're savvy with AI stuff, this is one that you should watch. And I believe the next meeting is in January on that. But I'm going to have a link in the description to all of the task forces under the Attorney General's office. So you can go to that site and you can find out when the next meetings are so you can attend them. The next one is the Hate Crimes Advisory Committee. This is also a result of legislation. So the hate crimes hotline is going to go into a pilot program this summer in June or July. The job of the task force is to decide what that will look like as they push out that pilot. So this is one that you'll want to watch. And then I believe it's 2027 when it becomes a statewide issue. So the pilot program is only going to be in 3 counties, and then in 2027 it will go statewide. So hate crimes hotline, that is the result of Senate Bill 5427, which was also passed on a bipartisan basis. The last one and the latest one that I've been talking about is the Domestic Extremism and Mass Violence Task Force. This was a result of House Bill 1333, which was the Domestic Extremism Commission bill that we had been shouting about for the last 2 years when it dropped in January 2023. The bill did not pass, but in the 2024 budget that was passed with bipartisan support, there was a $247,000 budget line to create a domestic extremism and mass violence task force. So this group will be coming up with ideas and things to combat domestic extremism and mass violence, which I'm sure is people like me, maybe people like you. If you like to, have prayer meetings at the Capitol or stand up for the rights of children to not be mutilated in the name of gender affirmation, you may be a domestic extremist as well. So this is a task force that you will definitely want to keep an eye on. I encourage you to watch those Zoom meetings and make a public comment. You can write into anti-hate@atg.wa.gov, and I would encourage you to send them your comments and concerns that you have with this task force and what they're doing, what they're trying to do, and how they will be targeting basically their political enemies. So that is a roundup of the current active task forces in the Attorney General's office. Again, there's a link to the task force page under the Attorney General's office in the description. I encourage you to go check that out for yourself, bookmark some of those meetings, find out when they're happening, and try to attend if you can. And really important to make a public comment if you feel so moved. We need citizens speaking out and giving their 2 cents on these matters. Really important, as these task forces will indeed shape future legislation. So thanks for watching. Please take action, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.